Liam Fee was born August 12, 2011, in Ryton, about 8 miles west of Newcastle upon Tyne. Shortly afterwards, in December, his mother, Rachel Trelfer, leaves Liam's father to live with her girlfriend Naomi Fee, and although Rachel did attempt a reconciliation with Liam's father around Easter 2012, this was short-lived, and she would once again leave with Naomi Fee. This time, the relationship between the two women would become more permanent, as after a short stay in a travelodge, the pair moved to a house in Thornton near Glenrothes. In June 2012, the pair entered a civil partnership, and Rachel took Naomi's surname, becoming a Fee. As soon as Rachel and Naomi committed to spend their life together, little Liam's fate was effectively sealed. Liam's childminder, Heather Farmer, who was hired to look after him between July 2012 to February 2013, called the Scottish Childminding Association and the Care Inspectorate, due to the fears she had that someone was hurting Liam. Heather noted down seeing faded bruising to Liam's left thigh, and on another occasion she noticed bruises to his lip, left heel and legs. On January the 9th, 2013, when Heather notices bruises to Liam's forehead and is told by the Fees that Liam fell out of his cot, Heather was still concerned about Liam's welfare and so called social services. Social workers were sent to the Fees' home, but unfortunately they accepted the Fees' explanation that Liam had simply bumped his head, which they described as plausible. Liam is however assigned a caseworker. Liam would go on to arrive at Heather's home with injuries. In February, when Liam was presented with an injured neck, Heather, who was so unsure that Rachel was going to take Liam to the doctor's surgery, waited outside to ensure that he arrived for the appointment, but Rachel never turned up with injured Liam. Rachel Fee later said that she had seen the doctor and he had said Liam's teeth were the problem and that she was giving him Calpol. Heather felt she could no longer trust the Fees, and so informed them that she would not be able to look after Liam anymore. She again contacted social services, although it would not be long before Liam's assigned social worker goes off work sick, and with no one else assigned to the case, Liam drops off the radar for a time, until the new Sunshine Nursery 19-month-old Liam has become enrolled in begin logging injuries on Liam, including bruises under his buttocks, a swollen lip, and later, bruises on his ears. Nursery nurse Vanessa Galloway said she felt intimidated by the Fees at parents' evening, and Naomi Fee demanded to know if he's not autistic, then what's wrong with him. The two women showed little to no affection or patience for the child, and staff at Sunshine Nursery suspected that something was not right at Liam's home.
Turned round, looked at her, and the feeling that you had was just horrific. It was like he was just frightened. In my whole 10 years of being in this private nursery, I have never, ever seen anybody look at their mother like that.
When he died, we knew that it was bad, but we didn't have any idea of the level that it was actually at. And it's really heartbreaking to think that we were sending that little boy home to that every day.
In June 2013, staff recorded Liam had a black eye, and then when Rachel Fee arrived to collect her son, he had a look of fear on his face. Staff called social services, worried by a change in Liam and the fact that he was losing weight and had a number of injuries. A community paediatrician examined Liam and concluded that Liam's injuries could have been caused by self-harming, as Rachel Fee had claimed, but they added that Liam may have been suffering from a lack of stimulation. Naomi Fee becomes angry at having social services called on them again and appears at the nursery, banging on the door, telling staff that they are withdrawing Liam from the Sunshine Nursery. Family workers tried to visit Liam at home to attempt to help the child, who they feared was suffering from a lack of stimulation, but Rachel and Naomi barred them from seeing him. Social services were called yet again about concerns for Liam, this time by a mum of two, Patricia Smith, who had used the same childminder as the Fees. She met the Fees in the street with Liam, who was in his buggy with a blanket covering his face. Patricia said that she did not know whether Liam was drugged or dead, noting that there was something deathly about it.
Patricia Smith knew Liam, her son's the same age. They went to the same childminder. What she saw haunts her to this day.
It was awful. I didn't know if he was actually drugged or dead. I never had, well, I thought I'd had gut feeling before in the past, but this gut feeling was proper.
She was one of several women who raised the alarm.
I can't get the vision out of my head. It's affecting my sleep and everything. The whole community's completely knocked by this, you know. But what's the worst part is that a lot of people were speaking up, and obviously we weren't taken seriously enough. Hasn't the lessons been learned before now? Liam could have still been alive.
At home, little Liam was not the only child to bear the brunt of Rachel and Naomi Fee's neglect and cruelty. They had 2 other boys in their care, whose identity has not been revealed. The other boys also suffered 2 years of abuse in the Fees' home between January 2012 and March 2014. They were routinely tied up, beaten, given cold showers, and forced to wet the bed because the Fees banned them from leaving their room at night. If they went against the Fees' orders, then they would again be beaten. Both boys were made to sit or stand naked, or at times in their underwear on a step or chair for long periods of time. The Fees called it the naughty step. One of the boys was threatened with having his genitals cut off by the Fees with a saw, and they placed a cage filled with rats onto his head. They told him that he was responsible for killing his father. He was tied up in a room with the rats, snakes, and a large boa constrictor, being told that it ate naughty boys. The 2 women went on to construct a cage from a metal fire guard and pieces of wood. They locked the boys inside, binding their arms and legs with cable ties, string, or a dressing gown cord. Items would be placed on top of them, and if they fell off, the boys would be beaten. If the boys hadn't wet themselves, then the Fees would at times pour water onto them and pretend they had, and then the boys would again be punished and locked in the cage. The boys were also forced to sleep in a drawer or tied to a cot and repeatedly called names. Like Liam, they were also deprived of food, though one boy was forced to eat his own excrement after he soiled himself. One of the boys had his feet injured so badly by the Fees when they stamped and squeezed them that he needed a skin graft operation in January 2014. This was another missed opportunity in which the social workers could have intervened and perhaps stopped further neglect and abuse of the boys and the subsequent death of Liam. But the social workers didn't intervene, so on the 17th of March 2014, we can see that the last days of Liam's short life begin to count down. 6 days before his death, Naomi Fee searches on her phone for information concerning a broken leg, while Rachel Fee searches on her phone for possible injuries if you can't put pressure on a leg. This strongly suggests that Liam had already been badly injured by the Fees. No help is called to the injured child. Instead, 2 days later, Rachel uses Yahoo to look up answers to whether you can die from a broken bone, and Naomi searches for how do you die of a broken hip. At this time, Liam was lying broken on the floor in considerable pain, but still the Fees did not get any medical help. On 21st of March, in the morning, at around 8 AM, Naomi Googles, can social services gain access to my home? And Rachel searches, can wives be in prison together? Both women are perfectly aware that Liam is gravely injured, and they are beginning to realise the gravity of the situation. They do not care enough about Liam to call an ambulance. Instead, they carry on with their day. A pet shop owner reports visiting the home on the 22nd at 12:30 PM to buy some snakes from the Fees. He sees one of the other boys sitting at a table writing lines, which he says appear to be a punishment. At 2:20 PM, the Fees take the boys out to the local shop in Thornton to buy a little bottle of vodka. When they return home, Rachel Fee is said to have gone to tend to her horse at a nearby farm, leaving Naomi Fee to look after Liam and the other 2 boys. Rachel finishes at the farm after a few hours, and at 6:20 PM she texts Naomi to get the drinks poured. A neighbour recalls hearing a loud crying sound coming from the Fees' home at 7:20 PM. Rachel would later say that when she got home, she didn't see Liam, who she thought was in his bedroom with the door closed and the radio on. She said the other two boys were in the bedroom and that Naomi told her that Liam hadn't been hungry at dinner and was unsettled. The women said they both drank vodka and Fanta in the living room until about 7 p.m, when Naomi got up and said she was going to check on the children. Rachel states, "The next thing I knew, Naomi was screaming. It was a blood-curdling scream. She was repeating my name. I panicked and got up from the couch and ran to Liam's room. As I got in, Naomi was putting Liam on the floor. I immediately saw his face. It was pure white and lifeless. I was shouting, 'What the fuck?' And Naomi was saying, 'I don't know, I don't know.'" Emergency services were called at 7:57 p.m. Rachel told detectives that Naomi carried out CPR on Liam under direction from the emergency operator. Liam was found to have had a ruptured heart, and injuries similar to those found on road crash victims after a severe blunt force trauma to his chest and abdomen. Pathologists would later find more than 30 external injuries on Liam's body and fractures to his upper arm and thigh. Liam was declared dead by paramedics at 8:11 p.m. and at 8:14 p.m. Rachel Fee phoned her friend to ask her to look after her horse the next day. PC Lee Anson Dorman and PC Sam Girdwood attended the Fee home. Rachel described Liam to them as severely autistic and told them that he couldn't speak. She said he wasn't diagnosed but was in the process. A search of the house found a makeshift fire guard cage, cable ties and belts. Both women were detained and interviewed by the police over Liam's murder in April 2014, but they were released while further inquiries were carried out. It was not until August 2014 that they were once again detained and charged with child abuse and neglect and the murder of Liam. The two women had initially blamed one of the other boys for Liam's death, saying that he had strangled Liam by putting his hands over his mouth, and prior to the arrival of the police and the paramedics to the Fee's home, they grabbed the boy's hand and forced it into Liam's mouth after he was dead, trying to create evidence to support their story. But after several interviews with specially trained officers and a social worker, the child was able to explain what actually happened.
Living through
hell, basically. They've been subject to horrific abuse, horrific neglect. They have had no medical care when required.
During a 7-week trial at the High Court in Livingston, Rachel and Naomi denied killing Liam. A number of witnesses told the court how they had raised concerns about the toddler's health and well-being with social services. Prosecutors said Liam's injuries were caused by means unknown through a blunt force trauma sometime in the week before his death. They had caused unnecessary suffering and injury to Liam, which included leaving him for long periods of time in a dark room with no physical or mental stimulation, and the court heard how they failed to even give Liam adequate food. The court heard how they used Calpol and medicine to drug Liam to keep him quiet. Rachel and Naomi Fee were found guilty of a catalogue of offences against the other boys and of the murder of Liam. Naomi was sentenced to 24 years and Rachel to 23.5 years. They are not together in prison. After the trial in September 2016, a review into Liam's death found that child protection officials missed opportunities to intervene. A social worker involved with the case was struck off after being found guilty of misconduct by a professional watchdog.
Child protection authorities have now started a case review. Are there concerns that this child has been let down?
That will be one of the issues that we've picked up during the significant case review and examined in some detail.
Although help came too late to save Liam, the other two boys who suffered at the hands of the Fees are said to be thriving despite the hell they have endured. Now free of their tormentors, they are going to school and doing well. While being interviewed by police, one of the boys was asked to explain why he loved Batman and the characters in the Avengers. He replied, "Because the good guys always win."